I'm personally not a fan of snakes. I'm sure I'm probably not alone in that. When I was growing up in Southern California, you had to be on the lookout for rattlesnakes, right? Because their bite's venomous, and of course they slither through tight places, they hide under rocks, and then they come out into the sun, and their natural camouflage allows them to just blend in with the surroundings. And so if you're not careful, you can be walking along on a trail somewhere and without realizing just come right upon one. Get bit. So snakes are not people pleasers in any way. But I think you could argue that people pleasers are a bit like snakes, that they seem to be good in slithering through tight places and blending in with the crowd. And you might, the thing is, with someone who's a people pleaser, you might assume that they're on your side until they strike, right? And you get bit. And so in Acts 16, I think it's the magistrates of Philippi who are like that. You know, when the crowd gets riled up and they want to beat Paul and Silas, these guys ignore their judicial responsibility and they just go with it. Right? You want to beat them? Sure. Now, of course, as we go through the Bible, most references to snakes are pretty negative. And you probably know why. Genesis 3 tells us that Satan himself took the form of a serpent in the Garden of Eden to tempt Adam and Eve. But there is one occasion where Jesus tells his followers to be like serpents. It's Matthew 10:16. He says, "Behold, I'm sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves, so be wise as serpents and innocent as doves." He's preparing his followers for times when they'd be, if you keep reading that passage, when they'll be delivered over to courts and dragged before governors and kings. And they would need to be wise. Or some translations say shrewd. And I think Paul exhibits that serpent-like shrewdness here as he relates to those slithering magistrates of Philippi. Acts 16, we'll read verses 35 through 40. It says, "But when it was day, the magistrates sent the police, saying, 'Let those men go.' And the jailer reported these words to Paul, saying, 'The magistrates have sent to let you go. Therefore come out now and go in peace.' And it tells us, but Paul said to them, 'They've beaten us publicly, uncondemned, men who are Roman citizens, and have thrown us into prison. And do they now throw us out secretly? No. Let them come themselves and take us out.'" Wow. And so it says, the police reported these words to the magistrates, and they were afraid when they heard that they were Roman citizens. Now, they weren't supposed to treat citizens that way. That was a big deal. And so it says, they came and apologized to them, and they took them out and asked them to leave the city. And so they went out of the prison and visited Lydia, and when they had seen the brothers, they encouraged them and departed. So why does Paul do this? Why does he respond in this way? Is it just that he wants an apology? I don't think so. I think he does it for the benefit of the new believers in Philippi. Because think about it, if that reactionary crowd in town got stirred up again, the magistrates might do the same thing. But maybe now they would think twice before just going along. And so Paul was being shrewd. He was using Roman law to prevent or maybe at least slow down the persecution of other Christians. Believers still need that kind of wisdom as we interact with the government today. On the other hand, we also live in a society where there are lots of Christians, right? Where Christians have a lot of influence. And so I think we need to recognize that people pleasers are just as likely to slither into churches and blend in with true believers. You need to be on guard We need to be watchful. We shouldn't be fooled, because their influence is just as venomous. In 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 3, Paul told the Corinthians, he warned them about people like that, and he says, I'm afraid that as the serpent deceived Eve by his cunning, your thoughts will be led astray from sincere and pure devotion to Christ. Because if you're always trying to serve people, you're always trying to please and use people that way, you're really not serving the Lord. And so we need to beware of that influence and to pursue sincere, pure devotion to Christ.